Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. And one of the things that we've discussed with some regularity is the fact that before the days of recording, composers had to make arrangements of their large orchestral works for domestic performance, so people had an opportunity to hear them in their homes. And there were lots of ways to do this. They could make chamber small ensemble versions or solo piano versions, or more likely, and more interestingly, in my view, two-hand piano versions. That is for two-hand. I mean for piano four hands. I mean two pianists. I mean some organism with multiple appendages. In this case, it was two pianos, which is really pushing it. Of course, many homes had two pianos, and homes were, even for like the poor, were substantially larger than they are today because, or often than like city apartments, because you had to have room for things like your stables and stuff like that, and servants' quarters and whatnot. But no, more normally you would get arrangements for piano four hands. There, I got it out there. Two people sitting at the same piano, hopefully not getting tangled up, playing these pieces of music. And they would have to be of, hopefully roughly equal accomplishment. And some of these arrangements were done, very rudimentarily, and some of them were done rather more sophisticatedly for home amateurs who are actually quite adept at performing on the piano. And I have an absolutely splendid disc featuring two such arrangements. It is on the Divine Art label, wonderful independent label that specializes in sort of contemporary music and off the beaten path stuff. They've got some great things. And here it is. It features Goldstone and Clemmow, the piano duo, and this disc it's a very generous disc, couples Dvořák's New World Symphony with Mendelssohn's Scottish Symphony, both in the composer's own arrangements. And that's what really makes it interesting, actually. Some composers, for example, like Brahms, we just talked about his four-hand arrangements, arranged his entire output for piano four hands, and he did it himself because he was very meticulous and he trusted no one else to do it. In other cases, music publishers hired arrangers who had, varying degrees of ability for varying markets. But in this particular case, it is always interesting to hear what the composer has to say about their own work, or what another genius composer has to say about another composer's work. Those are the ones we're really most interested in, right? For example, Mahler's string orchestra versions of Schubert and Beethoven quartets and stuff like that. You want to know what someone else has to do, or what the composer himself thought was important. Because in reducing from a large orchestra to a piano, even a piano four hands, if you want to make an idiomatic arrangement, you sometimes have to decide what parts you want to emphasize, what orchestral colors you want to try and reproduce, which ones you don't, where the melodic lines are. It gets very, very interesting. And I'll give you an example of that, because I have permission to use a couple samples. From the New World Symphony, in the scherzo of the New World Symphony, it's basically canonic. It's da-da-dum, bum-bum, bum-bum, ba-da-dum. You know the tune, right? So it's ba-da-dum, bum-bum, ba-da-dum, bum-bum. They're following each other, these, one after the other. But then at the big climax, dum bum ba-da-dum, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-da, then it comes in with the violins. And that's usually all you hear. Ba-da-dum, bum-ba, bum-ba, ba-da-da. Well, actually, that is multiply canonic. It's violins and woodwinds still. And then, where they all go off doing something else, the theme appears in the bass. And you almost never hear it in most performances. You hear it in Klemperer's recording because he really cared about bass lines. When you get conductors who think that, the fact that you want to hear the tune matters, and it's in the bass, then you will hear it. And in this performance, in the Dvořák's own piano version, you hear it. You hear that tune in the bass, in the piano four-hand arrangement. And, because it's all on one plane of tone, more or less, unlike the orchestra where things are very unequal, you actually hear rather easily a very, very, very fair balance between the treble and the bass line. And I want to just play you that little bit so you get a sense of it. And that's one of the wonderful things that you gather when you listen to these piano versions. You hear some motivic work, you hear bass lines, you hear things that don't come out so well in the orchestral versions. So here it is. is a bit of the scherzo of Dvořák's New World Symphony. I hope you heard that. I should take this thing out because there's like some glare. But there we go. I hope you heard that. It's very, very interesting, wasn't it? And, the fact that you don't hear bass lines doesn't mean that there's something wrong with Dvořák's orchestration or anything like that. It just means that when you're dealing with an orchestra full of assorted instruments with different colors and timbres and dynamic potential, you're going to hear a different type of balance. Nobody complains about the fact, usually, that you don't hear a bass line or something like that, but I like to hear them. Once you know they're there, you kind of want to hear them. So that's that. Now, the Mendelssohn, and by the way, I just want to point out, Dvořák's arrangement of the New World Symphony is really very, very good, and it sounds marvelous on piano four hands. Dvořák, gets a lot of flack because of his piano concerto, which everyone says is not idiomatic piano music. But Dvořák was an organist and a pianist and a string player. He's a perfectly idiomatic writer for the piano. And his four-hand works, some of them are really quite major, including the Slavonic dances in their original form. And nobody ever complains that he didn't know what he was doing. Of course he knew what he was doing. So it really sounds quite splendid. It's fascinating to hear. So is Mendelssohn's Scottish Symphony. Mendelssohn did not make many arrangements of his works for piano solo, actually. He didn't see many of his works through to publication. He was very picky and very unwilling to publish, actually. And the Scottish Symphony is his greatest. It's his masterpiece. And it sounds, again, splendid in this piano four-hand arrangement, because Mendelssohn was far too much of a perfectionist. He was like Brahms in that respect, to ever let anything go that wasn't really, really polished to perfection. And I want to play you a little bit, while we're on the subject of scherzos, let's listen to a little bit of the scherzo of this too. It sounds just wonderful. Listen to this. It's gorgeous. Isn't that fun? And a lot of the credit, of course, goes to the duo of Goldstone and Clemmow, who are beautifully recorded on the Divine Art recordings. I just think, I don't recommend that people get tons and tons of this stuff, and tons of it is available now. I mean, because people are looking for stuff to record, and they're looking for major works by major composers to record. So other versions of those works are always going to be enticing in terms of your release schedule. But these are really good. They're beautiful performances. The interpretations are marvelous. By any standard, they're really, really just good performances, never mind the interest of the fact that these are four-hand piano arrangements of Dvořák's Ninth and Mendelssohn's Third. So I just love this disc, and I recommend it very, very strongly to those of you who know these works well and are interested in them and want to have a different slant on them and gain sort of a deeper appreciation of the plumbing, of their inner workings, their infrastructure. That's what you get. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.